back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back again to talk about a I'm not going to call it a classic, but a movie that was in the pulse of America when it came out back in 1998. We're going to talk about Dee Snider's Strangeland, a movie that, honestly, being somebody who, I graduated high school in 98. So this came out my freshman year of college. They did a pretty good job of capturing what the internet was.
I was 2.
I know you were. I know
But I agree with you. Like, because really the internet did not change until I was older. I feel like.
Yeah, it was waiting for you.
I grew up in dial-up. I grew up in chat rooms. Yeah.
Well, especially like rural internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this movie was Dee Snider, if that's a name you don't recognize. Dee Snider was the front man for a 80s hair metal band named Twisted Sister. Their big song was "We're Not Gonna Take It," and they've sung other things. But yeah, they're very much like glam rock of big hair, makeup, but their songs are mean. I think Dee Snider is a just fine person, but it was definitely a gimmick that they were going with. And so it's an area that he dabbled in, horror and just, monstrosities and pain and things like that. So to write a movie like this, not overly surprising. So our movie kicks off in the most like late 90s teenage girl way. We've got a couple of teenage girls. Our main character's daughter, Genevieve, and Tiana, they're in chat room.
Yeah.
And I love it because they're not in like Yahoo chat rooms or AOL. They're in a proprietary generic chat room built for this movie, so they didn't have to pay royalties to anybody, which is fine. That was very normal for the time. But yeah, so they're in chat rooms. And for our younger listeners that don't understand what a chat room is, I think chat rooms were probably over by the time you became an internet user, because cell phones came out. Chat rooms were wild.
I was hanging in chat rooms up until my senior year of high school, for sure.
Chat rooms were
with
wild.
Friends.
Yeah.
So like what I would compare for the younger listeners, like Omegle has become popular again.
What is?
Omegle.
Become popular again? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, so like it was popular when I was in high school.
Really?
And yeah, it's just like this random.
I taught you when you were in high school, so like obviously this is that other side. This is the non-classroom side of.
This is the side where mom and dad, if you listen, please stop. Okay?
Got it. Yeah, well, they don't, so it's okay.
I know. So yeah, Omegle was like this chat room that you could get on and you could do videos.
Okay.
And it would just link you up with random people and you never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
Or you could do it as like the app on your phone and you could just chat back and forth.
An even earlier version of that was just called Chat Roulette, which made a lot more sense, where you basically just connected and you probably looked at some naked guy.
Yes. Like the amount of naked men that I saw in that. Oh, and I was so like, gross. Ew, like gross.
Yeah.
Like very put off as a teenager. Like,
I was in a weird time where I didn't grow up with the internet, not like you did, but like the internet come about the same time that I became interested in technology. So I kind of felt like the dawning was there. Websites were a thing, but they weren't a thing. Like, they weren't, the internet was nowhere near as powerful as it is today.
Yeah.
And so you had it, and really that was about the most you could do with it was social chat room type stuff, where you would find a platform, and a lot of times it, like Yahoo chat rooms being one, you think of it like Reddit, only live, to where you would find a topic, and that topic may just be teens. That topic may, because things weren't as nasty as they are now. They were somewhat more innocent. And so you found your topic and you went into the chat room, and it was just an explosion of people. There might be 500 people, and there's just one stream of conversation. It's like walking into a party that's already started and trying to find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you see everybody's conversation to where it's
Yep.
just line after line after line after line after line. And so it's just, oh my God, it's so like headache inducing to think
Yeah.
about it now. And if you had the luxury of latching on to somebody, like you found somebody to talk to, you could branch off into a private room. And it was just full of hope. There was no way to send photos. There was no way to do video. You just hoped. You just hoped who you were talking to was legit. You just hoped that they weren't catfishing you or stringing you along or whatever. You just hoped. It was so much more innocence, but at the same time, there were still creeps out there. And that's where our movie really kicks off, is Genevieve and Tiana are in a chat room, and they're following this stream of chats, and they latch on to a Captain Howdy. So they send Captain Howdy a private message, and then they start back and forth, and they check out his profile. And Tiana is much more experienced with how the internet works than Genevieve. And Captain Howdy, I guess everybody in this chat room apparently lived in town, which was odd, because Captain Howdy's like, hey, you want to come to a party?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the girls are at a party. Okay? Like, they leave, and we don't see them again for a while. And that's where the movie kicks off, is these girls went to, like, they met a person in a chat room. They took his invitation to go to a party. Apparently he just lived in town, which is pretty lucky, honestly. Like, to cross paths with somebody in a general chat room that lives a few blocks away, whatever. So it's a trap. Neither of them come home the next morning. And Genevieve's mom alerts her dad, who happens to be a local police officer.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Whew, you're right. Thank goodness all these people are connected.
Yes.
So Mike is the cop. Mike and his partner Steve, who is younger, they start, of course, searching for these two girls from a cop perspective, but also from a dad perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we find Tiana's car in a lake. And when they drag it out of the lake, they find Tiana's body in it and not Genevieve's.
And it's not just like a body.
No, she's been tortured.
Like, she's been tortured.
Yeah.
I mean, every parent, I feel like, their worst nightmare to open up the trunk of a vehicle too.
The premise of this movie for the late 90s is pretty solid, because the internet was new, and what do you do with new technology? You scare people with it.
Yeah.
The internet was so new, and youth tends to gravitate towards new. And so, of course, these girls are going to be more experienced online than their parents are. We see a lot of really stupid Mike things. He can't figure out how to turn his daughter's computer off, so he just unplugs it. Like, they're just trying to show us he really doesn't know technology. And so there are, there's just some early stuff on we're failing. Like, Genevieve is gone. Tiana is dead. We have no idea where they're at. Thankfully, though, Mike's sister-in-law is hanging around. And with her sister-in-law comes her daughter, Angela. Angela is a cool, hip teen girl. So she's going to be super helpful on the case, because she's forgotten more about the internet than these bozos know. And thankfully we have Angela, because Angela sets the record straight and gives them a super crash course in how to work the internet, and they find Captain Howdy.
Yeah.
At the same time, we keep cutting back to the house. We did see the house. We didn't see Captain Howdy do anything with the girls, but we do cut to Captain, and that's one of the big problems I have with this movie. They show the bad guy way too much.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's like he's supposed to be the monster.
Yeah.
And they show him way too much. Like, we as the viewers know what happened. Mm-hmm. There's no mystery for us. And so it was hard for me to connect with Mike when I know what happened.
Yes. Got you.
So, it's like I'm not on this journey with him.
Mm-hmm.
We already know she's at Captain Howdy's. We already know he's into body art and mutilation because we've seen him several times. Close-ups of his teeth that are filed and close-ups of tattoos, and it's like we've seen all this. But Angela comes along and she helps Uncle Mike, and they meet with Captain Howdy. So Captain Howdy or Mike, basically they're trying to follow the path. Mike's finding out a lot about his daughter Genevieve through Angela. She's like, Angela, do you talk to boys online? Of course I do.
Right. Like,
do you think Genevieve did? Yeah.
Actually, she likes to meet up with them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoo.
Yeah.
Kids, don't ever do anything your parents would be ashamed of, because if you get kidnapped doing it, like, they're gonna find out.
Yeah, it's and that's a hard sell because teens are rebellious.
Yes.
And I guess the higher profile your parents have, the more likely you're to rebel against it. So when your dad's a cop, you're probably going to do things that cops aren't going to like. Anyway, Mike's trying to get Captain Howdy to invite him to a party. He doesn't invite him because he sniffs him out as being a cop, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Well, they kind of did go to a party.
Yeah, he sent him to the house, but it was the wrong house.
And they just showed up as all the cops.
Yeah,
right. You're right. He did sniff him out as being a cop.
Yeah,
and it's just like
they went to the house, and when they busted in, it was like that old couple in bed. And then the next day, he chats with him, and he just calls him a cop.
Yeah. And here's my issue with it is like, why couldn't you have gone in undercover? Something like, dude, you're looking for your daughter.
Send Angela.
Yeah.
Like, you obviously be right there with her, but send Angela.
Get her mic'd up, hide in the bushes, like, do something.
Nah, this movie doesn't think that far ahead.
That part drove me nuts because I'm like, you literally blew every cover you had. Yeah. Like, you might as well just kill your daughter yourself because...
we do know she's still alive, though, because Captain Howdy has this collection of kids. He's got this collection of naked bound teens in his torture parlor. But Mike stumbles across Captain Howdy's location.
Yeah, he's like...
literally, like, stumbles across it.
He gets a voicemail from Captain Howdy.
Yeah.
And he hears this dog barking.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I like that scene.
He is, like, fallen asleep because they're, like, neighbors. Yeah. Captain Howdy is, like, neighbors with the quote-unquote party house that they sent the cops to.
Right.
So Mike wakes up from his slumber.
That's right. Yeah, because he's staked out
to this dog barking.
And as he's listening to this phone call, the dog across the street is barking.
Yeah, but then the dog quits barking, and it's still barking in the background.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, he's got to be here.
Yeah.
So, he goes around the back of the house, busts into the basement, finds his daughter. Captain Howdy gets the jump on him. They fight. Captain Howdy gets shot. Mike arrests him. Yeah. And then we go to Act 2. Yeah. Honestly, they should have stopped the movie right here.
Yeah.
Because Dee Snider wrote this movie. Dee Snider also plays Captain Howdy. So that means... and Dee Snider produced this movie, which means he put up the money for it. Which means Captain Howdy was never going to just go away this easy. Like, not when the guy who paid for the movie and wrote the movie is the bad guy. So he gets arrested. We find out his name is Carlton Hendricks. It doesn't matter. Mike thinks the case is closed. It doesn't matter. Long story short, fast forward about a year, Hendricks' case, he's not guilty. He's going to spend some time in a mental institution because he's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah,
I could see the insanity plea, but you still murdered people, like
right.
And so I don't know really what they were trying to say with this, because they put Hendricks in a mental institution for 3 years. They diagnosed him schizophrenic. But as long as he's on his, like they found he's harmless as long as he's medicated. He'll be fine. So he's now this like meek librarian looking person wearing a cardigan and no tattoos. And it's like they did everything possible to make him look defeated. Because he was super into body mutilation. So what does Hendrix do? Naturally, he like moves home.
Yeah, like, this is like, okay, don't they say like don't go back to the place that
should have been triggered. That should have been part of the court's decision.
Yeah.
Of we're going to release you, but you must leave town. Like, because he just goes back to where he's from. And of course, mad, angry mobs are meeting him, which they should.
Right.
They absolutely should. Yeah. We get Freddy Krueger actor Robert Englund as like the head redneck.
Yeah.
That again, I can't be against what these people are trying to say.
I can't either, because if a murderer moved back and across the road
a child abducting murderer.
Yeah. Like no.
Right. It's so they keep harassing him. You know, and they're just again, he made the mistake of going home.
Yeah.
Like because they really were playing it up as like Hendrix is fine. He got some mental, health attention. He'll be fine. Like he's medicated. He's fine. He's fine because all of this body mutilation, obsession, and it's all just a chemical imbalance. He'll be fine.
Okay.
So, but society wasn't ready to accept him. So Jackson Roth is the lead redneck character here.
Yeah.
And his teenage daughter's out, and Roth instantly thinks,
because who wouldn't?
Well, of course. Like, well, okay, she's never done this before, and Hendrix is back. He must have taken her.
Yeah.
Which again, I can see that jump to conclusions, but we're trying to paint Jackson Roth as the bad guy here.
Yeah.
Like not Captain Howdy. He's reformed. He's okay. So Roth gets a hold of a bunch of his local buddies. They all go kidnap Hendrix. Hendrix had nothing to do with this, by the way. They kidnap Hendrix and they go hang it. Well, first they make sure they show that he drops his medicine. I was going to say,
and they also make sure to show that Mike, the cop, is watching,
is aware of it.
Kidnapped. Yes.
And again, he's supposed to be doing his job. He should stop them. But again, this movie is like one giant gray area, but it's not and it's not, I wouldn't even say it's a gray area in terms of whether it's right or wrong. It's everybody's wrong.
Right. Yes.
And so it's hard to lean one way or the other when everybody's wrong. So Hendrix's medicine bottle gets broken. Okay, there goes his medication. He'll never get a refill on that. Then they basically lynch him.
Yeah.
They tie him to a tree, and of course it starts to rain. And then, of course, the tree branch snaps. He should be dead.
Right.
But we got to remember, Hendrix has a career of self-imposed body harm.
Yes.
It's probably not the first time he's hung himself.
Right.
So, it's 5 minutes, not thankfully not real time, but like it goes from he's hanging, it starts raining, everybody leaves, everybody's long gone, he's still hanging, the tree branch breaks, he should be dead.
Right.
But he's not. He sits up and he gives the most pathetic, what a rush. Like it's, it was groan inducing.
It's like, because earlier in the movie he talked about he wants to experience
he wanted to die.
Near death. Like I want to do it. Yeah. So here we go.
Yes.
Therefore it's triggered him back.
Yep.
And instead of
reactivated.
Like I would have rather him just said nothing.
Right.
Like just get up.
What a rush.
And just go.
Like that was everything I wanted.
Yeah.
So Hendrix is back to being Captain Howdy. He apparently went and got tattooed again. I don't know. Was he wearing makeup?
He was wearing makeup, because it showed him like every morning putting makeup on.
Oh, that's right. So he's makeup to cover these tattoos. No longer like let the hair out, get those muscles going. He goes in, he kills Roth's wife, and then kidnaps Roth. In a very
and this whole thing is like, ew.
It's super, I don't know, it's super awkward. Like,
I don't know what people do in the bedroom as they get older, but
or in the living room in this case.
Yeah, but like this is just like,
yeah, it was awkward to watch. Like, oh, dance for me, you know, and it's just it's just really weird. So basically, Hendrix goes on this revenge spree, and then calls Mike and says, "Hey, it's me, did it again," you know. So, you know, Mike is now back on the case. Genevieve's missing again, which obviously we know where she's at.
Yeah.
So Mike teams up with Steve again. We're talking, this is 4 years later.
Yeah.
Because it was a year for his case and then 3 years in the psych hospital. So 4 years have passed. And somehow, I guess, okay, I'll give it, you know, that Genevieve's still home. So we just fast forward. Hendrix has got everybody. He stitched Genevieve's mouth shut again. Like it just feels like Act 1 again.
Yeah.
It's just Act 1 again. You know, Hendrix is torturing Genevieve. You know, Mike and his wife are watching. Because it's all internet now. 4 years later, the internet's a lot faster. So we could do this for you. You know, sends him a video. And so Mike tracks Captain Howdy to this club that he was at earlier, Zabalba, which is the gates of hell in some foreign language, I guess. And so Hendrix he's got the upper hand this time.
Yes.
You know, because he's you're on my turf, and I'm expecting you now.
Yeah.
So Mike turns the tables again, ends up planting this giant meat hook into his back, and then slams him against the wall, and then lifts him off the floor.
Yeah, and he just like when he slams him against a wall, it's just like like a pendulum, just like
he's hanging from this meat hook
back and forth, and then Hendrix is ticked, so he's like kicking himself off the wall,
right,
and like he just like angrier and angrier, and Mike gets his flammable liquid.
Yeah, he goes from cop Mike to dad Mike now.
And he's like, I'm done with you. Yeah. Like, you will not come back into my life, and sets him on fire.
Yeah.
And Hendrix lasted a while. Like, longer. I know he was used to doing this.
He's got a pain tolerance. You got to give him that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And got a real pain tolerance.
The movie ends with them leaving, and you can see the fire going in this club.
Yeah. And that's Strangeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm just gonna say that the person that I relate to is definitely Genevieve, because I was that young teen in a chat room. Actually, at one point in high school, there were a few of us that the cops had to get involved because it was a chat room gone wrong.
The things I learned.
Yeah.
Well, let me put the things I tend to forget too. Like a lot of things.
It was crazy.
As a teacher, you hear a lot and you just try to push it away because you're like, well, that's their life, not mine.
This was my 8th grade year, so you wouldn't have known about it.
Yeah. Especially here.
Yeah. So it's crazy. But yeah, I would definitely identify with her.
Who would I? Honestly, I probably would have been more Angela, because I'm pretty tech savvy.
Yeah.
And I like to help people with technology. Yeah. But I also feel I'm competent enough to not like go overly stupid, you know, with the stuff. So I'd say probably Angela. Plus, I've always had a crush on Amy Smart, the actress who played Angela. Oh, I did. I had a crush on Elizabeth Pena, the mom, in this movie too. She was in Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
When we did Jacob's Ladder, she was his girlfriend that he lived with. Bless you. she was his girlfriend that he lived with that had get the demon eyes at one point.
Uh-huh.
Like that was like angry with him because he was still hung up on his wife and kid that had died. And no, there's just something about Elizabeth Pena that I was a fan of. Amy Smart's not built anything like her, but I was an Amy Smart fan growing up too. So and Linda Cardellini had quite the career, actually. She was at Freaks and Geeks, and she played Velma in the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh.
She played Genevieve in this movie.
Huh.
So, a young Genevieve in this movie. But yeah, I would say that's who I go to. What would you grade this film?
Okay, so like we talked about, like acting was whatever. But this movie reminded me of like a Law and Order episode.
Very much so.
Or like a Criminal Minds. Yep. And those are my comfort shows.
Okay.
I am your typical, like, let's sit down and watch SVU. So I'm going to give it a B+, because I love, as to where you're like, I didn't like the bad guy. I liked just the coherency of like knowing what was going on and knowing that they were looking for them. Like I liked, how it felt like a TV show episode, kind of.
I could definitely see that. I hear you there. I guess my frustration with it is this is not a TV show.
Yes.
And that it definitely felt like an SVU episode. Yeah. Minus the dun-duns. You know. But it's like this was a movie, like this was a rated R horror film.
Yeah.
That touched on some interesting things, but I don't feel like it ever quite went far enough.
Uh-huh.
When you have that rated R environment, you could have gone further.
Yeah.
And you didn't. There was just a lot of shadow, a lot of black and white, or not black and white, but just everything was dark, and it's like you've got this guy who tortures people, but we never see him torture anybody.
Yeah, I do wish we had seen a little more of that. Like, show me her getting her mouth stitched.
Yeah, like again,
why is Roth the only guy we're seeing being tortured?
Right. And so I guess that was kind of my holdup. Is I felt like it had kids' gloves on a little.
Uh-huh.
It's like you could have gone further. Your idea was there, but you kept pulling it back, and I don't think it was quite as effective as it could have been. I'm gonna go with C.
Okay.
It I guess it kept my attention, but there was a lot of times where I was like, I'm kind of bored because I just saw this at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I saw the end at the beginning. And then the middle was are you trying to get me to feel bad for him? 'Cause I don't.
Right.
And it's like by having society kind of beat him down, I'm like, but he murdered people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel bad for him. And so that's where I sit.
Yep.
Is there. So it was fun. Like I said, I got to watch Amy Smart a little bit. I got to watch Elizabeth Pena a little bit. So Robert Englund came in and overacted, as Robert Englund loves to do. But overall, it was fine. Like I said, is it something I'm going to chase down and make sure I watch again?
Yeah.
No, but I've seen it, and it was definitely a much bigger deal when it came out than it is.
Yes.
It hasn't got legs like one would think. So, what are we watching next week, and why are we watching it?
We are watching, I think it's a 2024 film, right?
2019.
Oh, I was way off. 2019, Ready or Not.
Yes.
Because, okay, so I feel like it's been like 2 weeks since we filmed.
It feels that way, yeah.
We've both been sick and whatnot. And so I forgot that we had not filmed Strangeland. And I went ahead and watched Ready or Not. So, yeah.
That's fair. As I mentioned it last time we recorded, that I had watched it. I don't know if I mentioned it while we were recording, but I had mentioned that I watched Ready or Not, and I think that probably planted a seed in your head. Is that what that was what we're going to watch? So I've seen it recently, like within the last 3 weeks. You just watched it, so that'll be the next episode. which honestly, I'm fine if we want to record somewhat sooner than later, knowing we both already watched it, and if you've got the time. But yeah, we are going to talk about 2019's Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving and Adam Brody and Andy McDowell and a bunch of other hoity-toity rich people that are doing hoity-toity rich people things with somebody who's not hoity-toity rich.
Yeah.
So, all right. Social media-wise, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. YouTube Shorts. Honestly, the YouTube Shorts are getting us more traction than TikTok. It's a hard nut to crack.
Yeah.
Like you drop in the right hashtags and they still just don't show up. So I'm not overly concerned about TikTok. But like my other podcast, Let's Talk About Flicks, like I just added 4 shorts for the episode today, like with it 3 hours ago. It's like one of them's up to 71 views already. It's like, I don't think we have 20 views total on TikTok. Yeah. So it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, that's where you'll find us. Social media, Facebook and Instagram, primarily YouTube. If you're not listening, if you're watching us, great. You're already there. Like and subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to. And we will be back next week to watch Ready or Not. So for another episode of I almost said Let's Talk About Flicks, of Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.